Hello, I'm Noah Warden, and I've got here a block mesh I'd like to show of a recent level I've been working on. It's themed around an abandoned factory that the player has to reach the end because the factory generator is slowly overloading, and you have to disable it and unlock the doors to the factory so you can leave before the generator overloads. It's got 3 different paths that each intersect. The gameplay revolves around this gun, referred to as the laser gun, that the player will use to cut things or weld things to repair them and interact with the world in the level. So the first path here, we drop down, or we start in the control room and we drop down into the conveyor belts of the factory. The player will be interacting with certain parts of this level, or certain parts of this section later, by using the laser gun to cut things so that they can unblock the ways. This light color here you see is just a reference for something that needs to be deleted later because the gameplay revolving around it hasn't been implemented. If I jump back here really quick, the way forward is to those pipes over there. We have these 2 walls here, one is hanging, one is the factory wall. Later I'm going to implement a very simple wall jump mechanic to allow the player to wall jump between 2 walls and continue over gaps to wall jump over gaps. So blue like this is just a reference to be deleted later. So we wall jump in between the 2 walls to the other side of the gap, where we're now climbing down and following the factory industrial pipes. We drop down to keep following them. This bright red is also a reference to me. This will be an occurrence of one of the optional objectives, the burst pipe, or the flaming pipes. Later, these will be turned into pipes with fire particles that the player can interact with their gun, and they will need to weld the pipes shut to keep going. They're optional objectives, but in this case, for Path 1, the player has to interact with them in order to keep going. So yeah, in one of these paths, the player has to interact with at least one optional objective, which is these pipes here. Down that way is the way to get to Route 2. I'll show you later once we're on Route 2, but you can get to it down there. These stairs will be deleted later for more wall jumps as the player jumps up to this main platform here. This is where the generator will be. The player will be interacting with the generator with the laser gun, shooting at parts that glow and that the player is prompted to shoot at in order to time it and destroy the generator successfully. After which the generator will fall down into this gap, destroyed, deactivated, and this metal frame here will later be a door that will open up once the generator is destroyed. The second pathway is down this broken elevator shaft, and it will lead us into the maintenance tunnels. This frame here is an entrance to the 3rd path, so this is an entrance from the 3rd path to the 2nd path and 2nd path to 3rd path, which you'll see the other side later as well. We are blocked from going this way from debris. Gotta go this way. More geometry and puzzles will be added in this section later that the player will use their laser gun to interact with to unlock the way to keep going forward. Around this corner. Up here though is the bottom side of the conveyor belts, so if the player falls off the conveyor belts or fails the wall jump, they will end up down here on the 2nd floor, or second route rather. Now, the keen eye might have seen, of course, more puzzles will be filled in later, but the keen eye might have seen that there's this gap right here. Around here is a hidden room. In this room will be a second optional objective, which is collectible research, which I will talk about more of. It's a secondary objective that the player can just find 3 collectibles, and that's that. Here's the bottom side of the pipes I showed you about. So again, these are burning, so the player has to interact with them to fix them, repair them before moving on, and this is how we got back to Route 1. So we came from this direction, and now we're going off in this direction. This here is a dilapidated elevator shaft, which will use wall jumping. And this leads us up to the underside of the generator, where the generator will be. So from this route, The player will be destroying the generator from the underside by disconnecting it from electrical pipes so that the generator can't overload. One thing I forgot to mention was another one of the optional research collectibles will be located in that alcove where the staircase currently is, that will be replaced with the wall jump. The last route is off to this side. It will be, at first it will be wall jump focused, so the player will be wall jumping from this wall between walls to dilapidated broken catwalks that have since collapsed further over here. This will be later a vent that the player needs to cut open with their laser gun, and now we're inside the ventilation system. Right here at the bottom is it where the player is introduced to the optional collectible research from this route. And here's the other side of the vent we saw from the second route earlier. Go up here, continue forward. This will be replaced with wall jumps later as well. Route 3, very wall jump heavy focused. And here is the third optional fire burning pipes objective that the player can so choose to do more wall jumps. And this time the player will emerge from this side, and they will have roughly the same task as destroying the generator from the first route, except they'll just be doing it from the back. It will be compatible to do it from either direction.